Okay, what it...
Well, good afternoon or evening, and you're watching What's New. I'll turn it over to ours, and she'll introduce our guest, who's very interested tonight because everybody loves quilts.
Our guest tonight is Bonnie Samuelson. She does art quilts, and I think they're Japanese also.
Well, influence is Japanese, and this one is
by
actually Japanese.
Quilting. So we'll let Bonnie talk, and she's going to give you a little information about what she does and about the process. So, Bonnie,
Okay,
welcome.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I really don't know where to look, but I'll just go
Wherever
forward.
you look, he'll go.
Okay. All right, so Iris, I'm a member of the Art Guild, St. Genevieve Art Guild, and I joined because I hoped that would give me an incentive to quilt again. Okay. And now that seems to be happening, you know, especially with this show. And so I said that I would do applique, talk about applique. And so what I have is, I borrowed this from Mary Pura. This is your traditional
Did Mary
applique
make that
quilt.
one also?
I'm not sure if she made it. She probably did make it.
Yeah, she's very good.
Right,
at it.
right.
Yeah.
So
She's good at
this
it.
is the applique, and what you know, applique, it's actually a French word, and it means like to apply something. It's like an overlay.
Okay.
And so you cut out pieces of cloth to make a design, and you attach them to a background. So that's what the applique is. So this is the traditional applique.
That's very beautiful.
And
That's beautiful.
this is the, I call it, maybe this is what's new. Maybe this is what's new.
Okay.
Talk louder?
Yep.
Okay. I don't speak very loudly. Okay.
Okay.
I'll
That's all
try.
right.
If
That's okay.
I'm waning, just remind me to speak loudly. Okay. And this is the, what I would call what's new in applique, and I call it applique art. Okay, like this, applique art. And so what you do is you make a picture rather than a quilt. You make a small, something you can hang on the wall.
Okay.
All right. And it's the same tradition as applique quilt and other quilts, where you really recycle material. Okay. And so this is from a Japanese quilter. And so there's this beautiful Japanese fabric in the background. And she's pretty well known in Japan.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay.
Now, is that done like hand stitching and
That's
the
all
edges are
hand
raw?
stitching.
And
Hand
the
stitch.
edges are raw, or are they turned under like the other?
The edges are turned under.
They're turned under?
And
What makes it so good is that you don't have to have 5 or 6 like you would for a quilt.
right, you just make one.
You'd
just
only
make
have
one.
to do one. That would be fine.
And so
That'd be good.
this quilter's name is Shoko Sugiura, and these are some postcards of her work. Can I show the
Oh, very.
Oh
my
Okay.
pretty.
And so she
I
has
love
quite
that
a few
cat.
shows in Japan, and I actually took some of her classes
Oh, did you?
when I was there. Yeah,
I like that cat.
yeah.
That's really cool.
And so, they do wonderful things. And then this is another quilter who does this type of work where it's a picture,
Oh,
rather than a quilt. And so this is a well-known Japanese artist. Her name is Ayako Miyakawa. And so many of the objects, like this is fruits and vegetables. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but if you can see this. Okay.
there, he's zooming in now.
Okay.
He's zooming in
There
now,
you
yeah.
go.
Okay. But just,
That's an
Yeah.
orange there, huh?
yeah. And then this is of fish, beautiful colors. So this is fish.
Wow,
Oh,
look at
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah. And then this is flowers.
That's my favorite book.
This-
I kinda
yeah,
looked through 'em one
this is
day, and I love
flowers.
those. Aren't those
Okay.
cool?
Oh,
Okay.
aren't those pretty?
And so they have an ISBN number in case anyone would want to
And
get copies.
They can contact you to find out the
Right,
number.
to see if they're,
Bonnie
available.
Samuelson is her name, and she's in the phone book.
right,
And she's also a member of the Art Guild, which you said already, right?
right. So, I said, I joined the Art Guild so that I would try to get back to quilting, which I haven't done until now. And I was asked to present something for the current exhibit at the Barnwood and Bedposts Gallery, where the Art Guild is showing.
Right.
And they wanted to have one section on what they called sun art. And so I was going to try to do some a quilted work, but I didn't get around to it. So I did it's really shiny. I did what I call a mock-up. I thought of a design I wanted to do. It had to be 12 by 12. And so it turned out to be in paper.
That's very neat.
I did it in
like that.
paper, and so it's fun. And I love flowers, so I thought, well, the sun causes, with spring, you have flowers that begin to grow. So I have this flower motif of, and actually this is origami paper.
Oh, really?
And then this is, again, all this recycling. And this is wrapping paper. And
That's
so,
very
and then this
beautiful.
is tin foil. So I use that. So I thought, well, I could try to maybe then this is just a pattern and I could do this, try to replicate it with fabric.
Right.
Um,
Pretty.
So,
Actually, if anybody's got time, you really need to go by the Barnwood Bedpost and see the sun art. There's some really cool stuff
Yeah, it's
there.
just fun.
Made out of recycled material and paintings, and there's just a lot of really lovely stuff there.
so then that inspired me. So I took it down today, but I have to put it back up tomorrow. That's my sun art. But that inspired me to try to do something with fabric. And so I can just sort of show you the process. It had to be 12 by 12. And so I started out with paper, 12 by 12. And then I wanted to have the sun in the middle. And this is I collect fabric. And this has followed me through my life. It's from a part of a dress from high school.
Isn't that beautiful?
I don't know how it came along,
It just followed you all around.
and didn't disappear. But this was like a longer, something like this. I don't know. I don't remember the dress anymore, but this is what remains of that outfit. And so I remembered it. And so I went upstairs, which is like storage, and there it was. And so I thought, well, this is gold like the sun, and I remember that there were stripes, and so I thought, well, I can make a sun.
Looks like rays coming
Yeah.
from the sun.
So what I did was, you really have to have a pattern, and so this is a pattern or a template. So I cut out the 12 by 12, and then I cut out the sun, and then I cut off one side of this to make the pattern I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
That's gonna be pretty.
That's going to be
Yeah, it's going to be,
beautiful.
I think it's going to be pretty. So I'm going to try to do this for the art show, which is up for a while at that gallery. And so here's this. So this is pretty much, if you can see, this is what it's going to look like. I don't know if you can see that.
There we go.
Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I thought, so this is more, I think, like maybe what's new in quilting, where you don't have to make a quilt. You can just make, something this size
A
and
wall
put it on a
hanging,
wall.
Whatever
It's like a
comes
wall
to your
hanging.
mind, yeah. So
And-
you're gonna use those other things there to
Well,
decorate it with, or?
and this is part of the fun of it too, that I thought, once I put this together, like I have to sew these pieces together,
Right.
and then I have to attach them to the center, and then I have to attach them to a backing material. And again, with recycling, this is an old sheet from France.
Oh, my goodness.
And I think it might be, oh, it's a really heavy cotton. And so with applique, you apply it or you attach it to a background material. So I hate to cut into this, but I decided that, it's the right weight. And so I'll attach this to that. But I thought, well, it would be fun to, I got this from Mary Pura the other day. It would be fun to enhance the sunbeams
Right.
going out. And so I'm planning to stitch. She gave me a darning needle, I didn't have one, to stitch and to accentuate the beams.
Stitch like a running stitch?
Yeah, it would be like very noticeable. It would be very noticeable. Okay,
Because your running stitch, you can lengthen that out
right,
and really make
right.
it noticeable.
And then I bought sequins at Walmart. And I thought, well, I want this to be sort of glitzy.
Bling, put the bling in it. I
Put the
love
bling in it. So it has, gold and silver. And so I thought I'm just going to focus on gold and silver. And so hopefully this will be, will appear at the Barnwood and Bedposts exhibit, which is ongoing for a while for the Here Comes the Sun art, the sun art. And I started this with a, I don't know if you can see this, with, I don't know which way to go, with a sketch.
I
Okay.
think he can zoom in from either way, so
Okay,
if you
okay.
just hold it there, he'll come
Okay.
in as close as he can. Maybe tilt it
I
back
don't
a
know
little
if you
bit.
can see this.
Might not be able to see the
Might
print
not
on
be able
that
to
one.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably not on the paper.
Okay. But, so I started out with a sketch, but I had already thought of this fabric that was upstairs. So what I usually do is start out with, put my idea down,
Down on paper, yeah.
yeah, and then I attack it, and, you always find out it's not as easy as what you thought it
Not
would
as it
be.
looks.
It's what you thought it would
It's
be.
like everything.
Oh, I know. So.
Well, the wonderful thing about that, though, is you don't have to sew them together anymore. You can do it on the outside, and it's permissible,
Right.
isn't it?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
have to quilt. Yeah, I don't have to quilt. Because when I do this, it's not going to be quilting, like attaching
Right.
layers, okay? And then, this I did a long time ago. I started this in Japan when I took some lessons from the woman who did this art.
Oh,
I took some lessons from her. Okay.
well, I want to tell you something. I like that one better than I like
Do you?
that one.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Because
So,
it's flowers.
so it's been quite a
I
while.
like the flower ones.
And I've never gotten around to stitching it. And what you did, you would just cut out the, you might have a bouquet of irises or a picture of irises, and then you would cut out.
He's zooming in on that right now.
Pardon?
He's
He's
zooming
zooming
in
in.
on it now. Yeah.
Okay.
There it goes. You're okay.
You're
Okay.
fine, because he was picking it up for you.
Turn around
Okay.
the other way now.
The other way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So now I'm thinking, because Iris asked me to do this, I really am starting to take off a little bit. Maybe I'll do this.
We got your push time.
Yeah. And I know in
Those are beautiful.
Those
when there's
are-
the
those are
garden
really
walk in May, they're going to have an exhibit,
Right.
also an art exhibit.
That'll
And so I
be
thought, well, this
beautiful
would be
with it.
perfect.
Oh, yes.
This would be perfect.
Even the sun one, because
Right.
it's with outdoor.
Yeah,
Right.
they can't grow without
Right.
this.
So I want to finish this and put it up at the current exhibit at, I can never remember the name, Barnwood and Bedpost.
That's
did
all
you
right.
call it,
We
Mary
did.
Ann?
What
What'd
did
you
you
call
call
it?
it?
What'd you call it? Barnyard bedpost.
I'm
Yeah,
very-
barnyard and bedpost.
I'm very
'Cause we
bad
was
with
talking about those
names.
stupid chips.
I know. I know.
Barnyard
Oh.
bed-
Yeah, was talking about them chips and I was
If
just.
anybody's got any questions for Bonnie, just call us at 883-7675. And since we're on the internet tonight, if you want to call us from St. Louis or Cape Girardeau, our area code is 573-883-7675. So call us and make us see if our phone is working.
And Bonnie is very knowledgeable about all kind of things, not just,
Okay, and then one
It's
more
kinda
thing, which
Oh,
has to do with quilting. So I have, 2 projects going now, and I think it's really sort of thanks to Iris. This is, I don't know should I put it this way or that way?
no, it's okay.
That's
He'll
okay.
get you.
This is what is called reverse applique. I've never done it, but I've had this for a long time. And it's called reverse applique because rather than putting fabric on a background, like this or like this, you do like a sandwich effect. You put layers, depending on how many colors you want.
Every time he gets it zoomed
I'm
in,
sorry,
you're
Susan,
moving.
I'm sorry. Okay, but, so this has many colors. So you need, for each color, you have to have a layer of fabric.
Okay.
Oh.
And you sort of stitch it together on the outside, and you have to have a pattern.
diagram,
You'd
yeah.
have to know what you're going to do.
Do you draw that onto the fabric with like a white
Well, see,
pencil?
I've never done this, so
Oh, you've never done
I'm
it.
not quite sure. But what you do is you cut away. You don't add, like applique, you cut away so that you can reveal all of the colors slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called a mola, and it comes from South America. And I know that Donna Marler has traveled there, and she said she has quite a few of these. But it's just another type of quilting, and apparently it was introduced by, I think, the church in South America. I think maybe it came from North America,
Oh,
and
really?
they went down there, and I don't know if the locals created this on their own. I
Or
don't.
if
I
somebody
don't.
brought it to them.
I was going to read up on molas. I didn't.
Don't they make clothing like that too? I mean,
They
I've
do.
seen-
They
yeah, I've
do.
seen
And there's
clothing.
an island. I'm ignorant about this. Again, Donna Marler. She should call. She might know.
Donna, if you're out there listening, give us a buzz and tell us.
Okay, but I think maybe that may be how it started. That they would like with their blouses,
Oh, okay.
the front would be this beautiful design, like this reverse applique.
Oh.
And so maybe they already did it. Maybe they already did it, and then the idea was picked up because this piece of cloth. You could just put it on
Whatever.
a blouse. Okay, so maybe that's how it started.
Now that doesn't have raw edges though, does it? Are they all
No, they're all tucked under.
tucked under and appliqued over?
Right,
Or
right,
stitched over?
right.
That's beautiful.
So, do you have any questions?
Actually, where do you get your ideas from? Just by, they just pop in your head, or do you
Well,
like look through pictures, or?
I think, it's like anything
Whatever.
creative. Like this one, I knew that, you have like limits. I knew that this had to be 12 by 12, and it had to be a sun. So you're on your way. And I actually worked on this. I have a Japanese, she's 9 years old, and I told them to watch tonight. Benny Nishimura. I tutor her and her brother in Perryville, where the father works.
Oh, okay.
And so I was there today. I'm there from Monday through Friday. And so she always likes to have projects to do. And actually, she made a sun, and it's at the exhibit.
Oh, is it
And
really?
so, we started out, I bought construction paper. And so underneath here is the original idea, which was red construction paper, and the sun was yellow. And then these, like, beams were different colors of construction paper.
Oh.
And
Oh,
so I
that
started
sounds
out with
pretty.
that idea, but then because she's Japanese, she had origami paper there.
Oh, okay.
And so I divided this up into 8 sections
shapes.
to go with the, what I call sunbeams. And so I decided, I said, can I use some of that paper? And so I chose 8 different papers with flowers on them, because I like the idea of flowers. And they didn't quite all fit, so I had to patch a bit, because I thought, well, the sun, because of the sun, we have flowers.
Right.
That's right.
So then I thought, well, yes, I'm going to cover over the yellow sun, and I'm going to do flowers here. And so I did that, and then I thought, oh, I think I'm going to try to make it bright or shimmery because it's the sun. So I decided to do the tinfoil. I went into my kitchen and got the tinfoil. And then it had been a friend's birthday, so I had bought wrapping paper. And I thought, oh, that was flower petals. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to continue with this flower theme, and I love flowers. And so I thought, I'm going to replace, I don't know, I remember, oh, it was the red behind. And I thought, well, I'm going to put that wrapping paper on here. So then I cut that out, and it reminded me again, this is Japanese, and it reminded me of, the petals remind me of, they look like rose petals, but I thought of, what is it, what is it? It's very famous in Japan. It's called hanami. It's where you go in the spring and I cannot think of the name of the tree. It's a flowering tree, cherry blossoms,
Oh, okay.
cherry blossoms. And so then it becomes, I think, when you think of flowers and the sun brings them to life, then with the cherry blossoms in Japan, it's also a symbol of life's process. Like life is fleeting. And so people go and, have lunch under the cherry trees, and they think about life
Oh, my
and
goodness.
how cherry blossoms represent the life cycle, and that, it's short. It's short. So that's a symbol of Japan, too. So, in a way, I guess I have been
Pass it over.
affected by time in Japan. I spent 4.5 years in Japan.
It does look like cherry blossoms.
It does,
Yeah.
it does.
That
So
is
it adds that sort of depth of
very unusual.
that
is
depth of
beautiful.
That's very pretty.
thinking about. They make you think about life and how short it is, how fleeting it is. So I
So
think that's
actually, you can take any type of scrap, and material, and you can also take like you're doing with sequins. You can take any type of a scrap or any kind and
Yes.
design a picture,
Right.
and embellish it with your maybe say beads and different
right,
things.
exactly. And
Well,
so
that's
it's just
great.
so it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, it sounds so fun.
And again, I like this idea of bling. So for this one, I want to do
Bling, bling.
the bling,
Pop out.
the bling,
I
and
love bling.
and this is more traditional. It was
It is.
it was for placing on a bed,
Oh, yes.
but now you can really do art and express yourself
Right.
by with quilting. So that's what I call it's what's new, although it's been going on for a long time. What's new in
Now,
quilting?
isn't that perfect? Our show is
What's
What's
New?
New.
Exactly,
She comes up with
exactly.
Yeah,
What's new
and
in
she
quilting.
comes in, What's New with quilting.
Okay.
Those are beautiful.
And now, see how I said Bonnie has a very creative mind. Who would have thought of taking paper and making the sun out of it like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
a piece
you
of
have
wrapping
to,
paper.
yeah, just start from an
Yeah.
idea and keep
Yeah,
building
and it
and
just
building and
evolved.
building on
It just evolved.
Right.
And when I got to that point, I thought, yes, I'm happy. I'm happy with this, the way it turned out. So,
And that's the artistic brain working.
right, exactly. And that's what's fun about it. It's an adventure. You don't know where you're going. And you just trust yourself and think, well, I like it or I don't like it, and I'm in charge.
Right.
So, which is a wonderful feeling to you know, like you own it, you know. I had a
That's why
friend,
I like abstract art, I think it's cool.
abstract
Yeah.
art,
You've
Nobody
been
else
over
could do
in
it.
Japan for a long time, haven't you?
4.5 years
4.5
altogether.
years.
Yeah, 3 different times. And so and then again, I, you know, went to the show by this person, and then this person was my friend, Shoko Sugiura, and,
Pass that cat over here, I wanna see it close.
Okay.
I think it's over there further.
yeah. And so, where'd they
Over
go?
there, buddy.
Oh, yeah. And so, I just
think
was
that's so
really, you know, I've always liked fabric. And so I've always collected fabric. And growing up, I did
Zoom in on
handwork.
that, Dan. Oh, Dawn, can you zoom in on that kitty cat? Better
Zoom in.
turn around the other way.
He's gonna get
Oh,
you
there he
lined up.
comes, here we go. Here
There
we
he
go.
goes.
coming
There he
in.
goes.
Zoom.
He's very talented with
Oh,
zooming
you can
in.
zoom in, oh, look at that cat, isn't
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
cute?
Yeah,
Aw.
yeah.
And its face, you can't see really clear there, but it's got the cutest little face.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
great
fabrics.
colors, and, you know, the
Yes.
fact, the white of the face that really stands out, and,
It's amazing what you could
That is
create with
beautiful.
all types of different material.
I
mean,
know.
You just could go anywhere with
oh, I
it.
know, I know.
That's something, I've got
That is gorgeous, I love
it's
that.
velvet, it's sketched, a Japanese,
Yeah.
sort of like,
I love that face.
the house, you know, was sort of like the trees
Okay.
with the blossoms on it. But this gives me an idea, instead of painting it, I think I'm gonna try it with the fabric
Good, good.
and see what happens with it, because it's velvet.
And
Yeah.
you also do, big quilts too, don't you?
I have, well, I've done 5, and I have some projects that have been sitting in boxes for maybe 20 years.
That sounds
That
like,
happens.
I know,
I've
I
got an
know.
Afghan I started probably 30 years ago
I
for it,
know.
and it's still.
So then, you know, when I saw that people were doing art like that, I thought, well, that's something, you know, it's much
It's-
less of a
yes.
commitment. But I did make quilts for each of my daughter, my sister. My sister had 4 children, so when I started quilting, I made each of them a quilt when they were young kids.
Oh, how neat.
And then I had my only commission was a friend of mine asked me to make a quilt for her daughter. And so she said it was, what is it? You know, for a double bed.
Oh, wow.
And so I made this quilt, and she had to send it out to California. That's where her daughter was. And her daughter hadn't told her that she had bought a queen-size bed.
Oh,
So, and actually, when it went off, I thought, you know, it was so much work that you really are never paid for your work.
no,
Exactly.
no.
And
not.
so, but I also would buy and sell quilts. And she said, you know, it's the wrong size. Can you fix it? And I said, well, why don't you just send the quilt back, and I'll show you other quilts that I haven't made that you can choose one for her. I have queen-size quilts. And so that's what happened, and I was very happy to have that quilt back, and I still have it.
Oh,
I still
that's
have
good,
it.
yeah. It's hard to part with those things you made.
It is, it is. And in fact, I just prefer, like, really giving them away. I mean, in my family, I just, you know, gave them away. But, so hopefully, I mean, I'm planning to do this, and then maybe I'll do that for the
Garden.
garden walk. And, but it's,
You're
fun.
inspiring me. I was thinking of this before, and now I'm really
Oh,
wanting
now
to do
you're gonna
that.
start
Yeah.
quilting?
And then-
No, not quilting, just doing the artsy things.
and then I have this. This came, it was like a string in a bag,
Oh, okay.
you know. And so I took the bag apart, I got this out, and I thought, well, I'd love
that'd
to.
be beautiful.
Well, you know, I like the idea of, and this comes from Japan too, of, I have some scrolls at home,
Oh, wow.
and the scrolls, you know, they're long and narrow, and they usually have like
They had that on, yeah.
a center piece of work, maybe about this size, but then the panel is much longer, okay? And so the focus is on the art, but it's very small. And so I really have wanted to do a scroll.
That'll be pretty.
Yeah, and so I thought, I've wanted to do that for a long time, so maybe I'll do that. And
So
then the
maybe
scroll,
that'll evolve into a scroll.
right, and then usually the scrolls have
Tassel.
tassels on them. And so then I saw that in that bag, and I thought, well, I'm going to take that, and that may enter into this. And so it's just fun. I really believe in recycling, try
So
not to throw
anybody
anything
out
away.
there, anybody out there that's got bags with cool things or cool fabric,
Right.
you can probably contact one of the Art Guild members and we'd be happy to have it.
Right.
I think there's Betty Joggers.
Uh-huh.
She likes to do that.
Okay.
You like to, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking about maybe trying it.
Yeah, and again, I have a lot of fabric, so I could share.
Now, did you do that when you lived in France too? Or, do quilting, or what was your interest
No, I've always liked art, and so in France I took live, model. I went to
Oh.
drawing class. I went to
Oh,
drawing
okay.
class. So I always liked art, and I had done it in high school and college, and then when I went to France, I pursued that, and I went to the Louvre in Paris. I had never taken an art history class, and so when I went to France, I thought, just go to the museums. And, so every week on a Sunday, I would go to the Louvre Museum, and I lived in Paris, and I would choose a gallery. I started with the early Italians, and then, I never made it to the end. I never saw all of it.
Big, yeah.
But, and then I had a friend who was an artist, and I would go to the art shows, and,
What, can I ask you something, Bonnie?
Uh-huh.
How did you ever get to St. Genevieve?
my love of everything French. My love of
Oh.
everything French. I had a house in France for 34 years, and I have a degree in French, and I actually taught French for about 4 years in Chicago. And then when I graduated from college with a degree in French, I went to France immediately upon graduation, and had thought about living there for a year, and I think that's when I stayed 3 years instead.
Oh, wonderful.
And it was just a wonderful experience, and I loved the language and the culture. I do like languages, and so it was just a wonderful experience. And so that's how I got to St. Genevieve, because I loved everything French. When I was a junior, I decided to study French at school, and then I loved it. And so at the end of the 2 years, I knew I was going to France, and I told my parents, after a year of studying French, I told my parents, when I graduate, I'm going to go to France and live. And they said, oh, isn't that a nice idea? But they never thought that I would do it, because they had never done anything like that. So I, after a year, then I, kept dropping hints. I said, I'm still planning to go to France, and by then I was looking for a job in France, because after studying, my parents, supported me through college, but I had no money to go to France. So I had a summer job before I went, and I went with a one-way ticket and I think $800 in my pocket, and the promise of a job. So that's how I went to France. And so I was just in love with everything French, and I had 2 years of the language, and I wanted to learn more. That was my excuse. I didn't want to, my mother said, stay and get a job, and when you have enough money, then go to France. And I thought, I may never get to France if I do that. So I thought, no, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
So what kind of job did you have when you
I
got
worked
there?
as a secretary for the president of the Siaki soldering company. And that summer, I had worked for a headhunter firm in Chicago, where they find jobs for executives.
Oh, okay.
And so the man that I worked for, he, I think that was the summer before I graduated. And he helped me prepare a resume with my picture on it. And they didn't charge me to send it out. I got the Paris telephone directory, and so sent my resume out to, probably 100 companies. And I had very few people contacted me, but the Siaki company did, because they had, I think they had a branch in Chicago. So I don't know if Chicago was the original office or if it was in Paris. And so they contacted me and they said, we won't pay for your way over here, but we're looking for secretary for the president who speaks some English, but no one else in the company speaks English, and he has to write letters back to this subsidiary in Chicago. And so I interviewed at that subsidiary, and I got the job, and so I thought, well, that's it, I'm going. But it was in it was a working class suburb of Paris, and so I got there in September, and I had to go early in the morning while it was still dark, and catch the train out to the suburb. And then when I left that evening, it would be dark. And so it was sort of gloomy. And I had taken a boat over to France. And I had met all these students who were going to go to school at the University of Paris. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be wonderful to do that, to go to the University of Paris? So with these girls, I had met 3 American girls. We decided that in December, I was working, they were in school, that in December, I had come over in September, that we would go to Italy for a month. And I thought, well, I do have this job, but I would rather go to Italy for a month. And we rented a car this is in the 60s, for $100 between the 4 of us. We rented a car for a month. And
It only cost you $100 for a month?
to rent a car, divided by 4, so we each paid $25. This was in the 60s. And I had my room, I had a maid's room, that was $25 a month.
Oh, my word.
Yes, and so I had a sink, but the bathroom was down the hall, and I had to go to the public bath, but $25 a month. So I called the Siaki Brothers Company, because I had decided, yes, I'm going to go to Italy with these girls. And I said, I'm sorry, but my mother's very sick, and I have to return to America. So I thought, oh, I hope she doesn't get sick. And I went to Italy. And so when I came back, I actually was living with a French family, and so was one of the other girls. She was my roommate. Now I needed another job. And at that time, the American Chamber of Commerce was the place to go, and you would be guaranteed. There were many jobs available to Americans. Now, because of the European Union, they want British people.
Oh,
Okay, so it's harder for an American. If they want English speaking, they go to England. But at that time, there were all these jobs available, so I got a job right away, right in a building right at Place de la Concorde, across from the Louvre. I mean, this very posh neighborhood. And I got a room, a maid's room, in the same building. So I would just tumble out of bed and come downstairs. And I was a secretary. And I did that for a year and a half. And I started at that summer. They had a young girl, French girl, who was in school. And so I decided in the fall that I wanted to go to the University of Paris, the Sorbonne. And so between this girl, Francette, and me, we would always have the desk covered. And she would go to school and I would go to school. And so I got a degree to teach English as a second language, to teach French as a second language. And so, my involvement with France just got deeper and deeper, and I made good friends that I had for many years. And, I still love France. So that's a long answer to tell you that I just fell in love with France. And so finally I had a house in France. But then as I got older, I thought, well, I don't want to become an expatriate. And have the only home. I had an apartment in Chicago by that time, and I thought, which I had for 20 years, and I thought, well, I don't want to have my only home in France because I don't want to be an expatriate. So my mother had died and left me some money, and I opened a bank account and put that money in, and that was my house account. And I decided I really wanted to have a house in America, and maybe I could, ultimately spend 6 months in France, 6 months in America. And I was very interested in French history, and I got interested in the French colonial period in America. Before that, I was interested in the French kings and reading about French history. But then I discovered there was all this French history in America, and I had heard about St. Genevieve.
Oh, my goodness.
And so a friend of mine organized this conference in St. Genevieve, and he was looking for people, to make it successful. And he was French, Charles Valézy, who's written books about St. Genevieve. And so he said, oh, come down to St. Genevieve. And I said, well, I've always wanted to go to St. Genevieve, because of its history, but no thought of buying a house. But I had almost bought a house out in the country outside of Chicago, where friends of mine lived. I'd almost bought a house, but the man had decided not to sell. So I had this money from my mother, and I wanted to buy a house. The house that I had thought I would get was no longer available. So I came to St. Genevieve, and 2 weeks later I came back and bought a house, a French house. And people said, why did you do that? You were there for a weekend, and now you bought a house. You're going back to buy a house. And I said, well,
did you buy your house from Al Kaiser?
no, he had already sold it to, I think her name was Mrs. Wheeler.
Yes.
He had sold it to Mrs. Wheeler, so I bought it from Mrs. Wheeler. And at that time, she had recently retired, but she then became very ill, and so she had to sell her house. And that was when I appeared on the scene, and I wanted a French house because I'm such a Francophile. So I bought it, and so it was Memorial Day weekend, I think. And, I made a down payment, and I went to bed that night, and I thought, if I've just done something really stupid, I'm out that down payment, which wasn't much. And I woke up the next morning, and I was exhilarated. So happy. And it took me 6 years to move down here, because this was a sudden change in my plans. I hadn't planned to buy a house in St. Genevieve, but so it took me 6 years financially to move down here, to have the money to move down. And so the last year, when I knew, okay, in 1 year I can move down here, I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, I'm not going to work in an office. I was a paralegal for 20 years in Chicago, and I thought, I'm not going to drive up to St. Louis every day. And so I went down to SEMO to see Frank Nickel, he was in charge of the, the program for the restoration of houses, teaching, whole department for people get a degree to be able to restore old houses. And so I went to him to just talk about my house. And he said, and I said I had been in France, and I bought this house because I like everything French. And he said, you sound like someone who would be good in the ESL program, English as a second language. And so he gave me the name of the woman who was in charge of that. And I had thought, well, maybe I would work at the university, just be a secretary. And he said, I think you're a great candidate for getting into this 2-year program. And so I decided, so I got the name of the woman in charge. It was Adelaide Parsons, who became my advisor. And so I applied for a fellowship, which meant that I would not have to pay tuition, and I would teach and take classes. So it would be a 2-year program instead of 1. But I would be paid $600 a month, plus not paying tuition, and I already had a house here. So that's what I did. And I've never regretted it, because then my first job after SEMO was to go to Japan. They had wonderful connections. They had many Japanese students at the time, and it turned out that most of the students came from this one school, Aichi University, and so I ended up getting a job there. as I was an associate professor. They paid extremely well. I had many perks. I earned much more, not much more, but I earned a substantial amount of money more than I had earned as a paralegal. And people had said, "Don't give up your job as a paralegal." What are you doing? You buy a house in Missouri?
Have you
And-
lost your mind completely?
And you have a house in France, you have a house in Missouri, and now you're going to Japan? And I said, well, it feels right. It feels right. So I'm just grateful to, I'm grateful that I went to that conference in St. Genevieve, that I bought my house, that I ended up going back to school to get a degree to teach English as a second language. And then my life totally turned around. I went off and taught in Japan for 4.5 years and taught in China for 9 months. And this was all through contacts with SEMO. So I'm forever grateful to St. Genevieve and my house and SEMO for a brand new exciting phase in my life. So.
Did you rent your house out while you were gone, or did you just?
Well, I really didn't. Actually I did. A friend of mine from Chicago who had left her boyfriend, and she was a good friend of mine in Chicago. She needed a place to run to. And so right before I left for Japan, she said, "Oh, can I rent your house?" And so for a very nominal fee, she rented my house. And then she was there for 6 months. And then the Puras, what did they do? Their son was having a house built up north, on the north end of town. And so they decided to sell their house across from Rogers and buy their son's house in town on 5th Street.
Oh,
But they wanted to rehab it, and so they lived in my house for 6 months. But I was, I think of that every once in a while. I was so lucky. I had very competent people taking care of my property. Neighbors watched it, and unlike today, because I haven't taken care of it, it was immaculate. My lawn and the yard, they were just immaculate. So it always looked like someone lived there. And so I never worried about it. And I think about that sometimes now. I just went off. And, over a 10-year period, I went back to Japan 3 times, from 1995 to 98, and then 6 months in the spring of 2001, and then 2003, 2004, I was there for a year. So I'm glad, so SEMO just opened up this whole world for me. I never probably would have gone to Japan or China. And it's like a paid vacation, but you have to work, but yet everything's paid for. So it was just a wonderful opportunity, which I'll be forever grateful to. So now, I don't know what's ahead for me. I retired from SEMO 2 years ago, and now I'm tutoring again because I felt, I wanted, I needed to keep busy. I have to keep busy. So now I'm not maxed out, but my life is very full and I'm very happy. So I like being busy, and I love my house, and I love the Art Guild, and I think I'm just slowly, now that I'm retired, I think I'm slowly maybe starting to do some artwork, and with the support of everybody in the Art Guild.
That's great.
Yeah, including you especially. You say, "Bonnie, when are you going to do something?" I say, "Well, when I can."
She's so
when I can."
talented, and she just comes to the meetings.
Yeah. Now I'm the secretary, so I feel that I'm, I do that. We're just about through. Okay. So it really is inspiring me to do something, and I think that the Art Guild is really starting to thrive. I think it's starting.
James is a very good.
Yes, and it's really, I think, become much more exciting.
I
mean-
You have to come back and join again.
I gotta
Yeah.
come back.
So
I took
what
a
was
year
your
off.
art? What art did you do?
I do oils,
Okay,
landscapes.
okay.
She's got some at the barnyard and bed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's in there.
I'm the only one that's not talented.
You are too. can
You didn't
talk
do
up a
that on your
storm.
shirt? You didn't do that?
No, I didn't do that.
So everyone's talented in different ways, and I've always, I remember in grammar school, I loved art, and so in high school I took art. I just always loved art. I went to the Art Institute for
Oh, did
1
you?
year, and I was teaching French in the evening, and I was a student at large during the day for a year, and what did I take? I took weaving, and so I was very into weaving for quite a while and had 2 looms. So I grew up with handwork. It was a Swedish ancestry, and so we did handwork at home.
Oh,
And I think that's both me and my sister. We, that just set us on that path of.
is your sister an artist too? Semi-artist.
No, well, she
Interesting.
did. She has been doing some quilting lately, but she always did petty point,
Oh, okay.
and knitting, but always handwork. So that was our background, and so that's why I'm here with this.
Well,
That started it.
Very wonderful.
Yeah.
It is too.
I'm anxious to see everything finished.
Yeah. So
Great, and
Me
I'm
too-
so
me
glad
too.
that you came back in, that
So-
you got inspired again.
yeah. So thank you for having me.
Well,
We're lucky to have you,
Okay.
and because St. Geneviève's got so many talented people in this town, so we're glad you're among us.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to be
That's-
surrounded by
that's
talent.
right.
Oh, is that someone calling in?
Can we answer a question for you? Hi, Pat.
Put her on speaker.
I know it.
Nadine, I wanted to call in because I've kind of been accused of not calling the show lately.
That you haven't.
Watching.
Now, who would do that to you?
Well, we won't name any names.
Oh, okay.
It was somebody that was on the show. No, I watch practically all the time. I try to watch, and most of the time you answer all the questions. But I want to let you know that I am watching, and I want to let Bonnie know that I thought this was really interesting. Not only the quilting, but the story of her life travels. That was just fascinating.
Wasn't it though? Yeah.
And I've had some, if that don't sound like myself, I had some dental surgery today, so I can't even do my one and only talent of talking very well.
Oh,
I have to
darn.
have that done next Monday.
Well, have fun.
Thanks for
no,
calling.
It's not gonna be
Thanks
much
for calling.
fun.
All righty, I'll say goodbye.
Okay.
Bonnie may have a few more things to say. Good night, ladies.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Pat.
calling.
One other thing about the Art Guild is that I've been pushing quilts because, I come in here and I talk about applique, but I know there are many women in town who have this long tradition of quilting and applique who, I've just done this. And I've wanted the Art Guild, I've been talking to the Art Guild about having 1 year when they have when is that now, the
Promenade?
big arch, the promenade, that they focus on quilts and have, sort of quilts everywhere in town and
That would
have,
be wonderful.
and then we were, what is the name of that woman who is now living in Italy and she lived in Japan?
Lisa Zarinelli, but her last name isn't Zarinelli
No.
now. It's,
Right,
I don't know what it is,
but
but
she's,
it's Wilma
yeah,
Zarinelli's
but she's
daughter.
a well-known quilter.
Right.
And actually, Juanita Wyman has talked to her about being the featured artist 1 year when we do quilts. And there's such a tradition of quilt making in this town, I think. And most people in the Art Guild, they do oils or acrylics or watercolor. But I think it's time to do fabric art.
I
and
agree. I think
yes.
I've been watching on some magazines, quilting magazines and collage, and they are doing all this kind of stuff, and it's so
Right.
interesting to read that.
Right,
Yeah.
I
So
do a
if-
little of everything.
right,
And
right.
everything, I do a little of everything because
Yeah.
I like to create, and when I go to yard sales, I see a lot of things that people, they're gonna throw away.
Right.
Well, I see that and something pops in my mind,
Right.
and this is what I wanna do. So
Right.
I pick up and I just create whatever I can,
Right,
because I love it.
right.
Somebody else who's really talented at that is Jean Reesover.
Oh,
And
yes,
she's gonna be
yes.
on our program the next time, her and
Yes.
James. She is, I mean, she just picked up scraps of everything and made the cutest little pictures. I mean, just like,
Yeah, she's an
Wire
instant
and-
star.
She
Instant
is? Oh,
star. You know, she
yeah.
retired from
the newspaper.
the Herald and said, I've wanted to do art, and so she's very successful. She has, you know, she's showing in Cape Girardeau right now.
Right, she went out to Mac to take classes from
Yeah.
James Wilson, who we all
Yeah,
have taken classes from.
right.
He's
Yeah, there's a
very
little
good
group
artist.
that goes out there, Mary Pura and Karen Kohlberg and
Beth
you.
Baker. And,
Yeah, so there's a group that goes, it's been Tuesday, Thursday, is it?
Tuesday and Thursday,
You
right.
still go this semester?
This semester I haven't gone. Last
Okay.
semester I didn't go,
But
but
does the group go?
I'm signed up, yes.
Okay.
I'm signed up to go, so I'm hoping like next week
And I,
maybe I can get
you know, I
back.
told Mary maybe I'd go, but I really, you know, this is really my thing, rather than, you know, paint or something like that, so.
And there's a lot of neat people out, seniors we are.
uh-huh.
We are senior painting
Yes,
group. yeah.
yes.
I think
And there's a
When you
lot of
find, when you
seniors
finally
out
have
there, too.
time, you know, to pursue interests,
Right.
right,
I'd like to get back into that too, but.
right.
So,
But
I
not
guess
enough
we'll
time.
tell you who's gonna be on our show
Okay.
next. And
Okay.
Bonnie, this
And
was just
thank you.
really nice, and we
Good.
really
Oh, my
appreciate
Well, I
you
brought lots of
coming.
stuff, because I thought, if I just bring this, it's gonna, you know, it's not
Oh,
enough.
It's
Yeah.
so-
Right.
wonderful,
Yeah.
it's
Good.
wonderful.
It's very nice. You have a really, very nice display,
Thank you.
and I like all that work.
So who's on next time?
The next time, excuse me, the next time we'll have James Wooldridge. He is the president of the Art Guild, and Jean Reesover. They're gonna talk about art in St. John.
Good.
I think probably all kind of different things. James is, his mind just is really amazing, and the things that he does,
Now,
and he thinks
where's
of.
he from?
He's from up in the Festus area.
Oh, okay.
And then the next, the fourth week, then we're going to have Bob Mueller, and he's gonna talk about the Civil War soldier. So that ought to be very interesting. He's always interesting.
Oh my gosh, he
Yeah.
has so
Oh,
much
when
history.
he
Oh.
talked about the church that
Oh,
when we had
yeah.
him.
Yes, oh my gosh, that was fascinating. I
Yes.
learned more
You
things
know,
than I
in
thought.
April, I think it's on Tuesday night, the second, third, and fourth Tuesdays at the Oris.
The first one, yeah, it's gonna be
It's
Civil
the
War
10th.
trivia. I don't know, do you know how to say his name? John Niswish? Is that how you say it? Nischwitz?
I won't
Niswish?
try, I won't try.
It's probably German. Huh?
Right,
Maybe.
sounds like it.
And then the Tuesday, the 17th, is going to be Civil War sketch artist and journalist, and Paul Cameron's going to talk about that. And St. Genevieve Civil War history, Tom Griminier is going to do that. And also, we have a new show a new store in town. It's La Mage or something like that. It's the,
Is that one on the square? Are we finished?
We didn't, and we didn't tell him.
Was that that's not the one on the square?
No, it's out by the,
it's in the old uniform building.
And what's it about?
They have everything that the